Hey everyone, it's Jeremy, and this is Red Beans Recording Modular. Qubit reached out to commission a video on their new module, Stardust, and that's what we're doing today. It's a digital recording and manipulation module somewhere between Morphogene and Databender with added effects. It's incredibly fun, and there's a ton you can do with it, which is pretty obvious by the length of this video. Feel free to jump around as you want with the chapter markers, and with that said, let's dive in. Okay, hi. Let's start out with a simple patch and get to know the most obvious controls on the front of Stardust. Again, I'm going to encourage you to go check out Qubit's video on this too. It's very thoroughly done, and there's a lot going on under the hood, a lot of shift functions and stuff that we might not get to, and I want you to be able to enjoy those. Or hey, go check out the manual. The manual is really good. Okay, so right now you're hearing a sequence from Qubit Surface, which is just still beautiful after all these years. And what I want to do is capture this with Stardust. So I'm going to go and hit this record button here once the sequence comes around, right now. Hey, and there's a loop. So in at least this mode, the loop length is first dictated by how long you record for. And so now if we record more onto this, it will stay within that loop, which is very useful for all different kinds of looping, if that's your thing. So if I go like this, you'll hear our loop that we recorded. So I've got a reset input going right here. That's going to reset the beginning of this loop every single time we come around to, I think, like 4 bars. You can set that to whatever you want. If I go to my reset channel, which is here, and spam that, you can hear that we can get some cool, cool rhythmic reset stuff. So that's really, really fun. There's going to be a lot of interesting things we can do with that. Okay, so let's start with the big knob, Speed. This is like a tape machine, so speed and pitch are related to each other, which honestly is a really wonderful way to experiment with audio. There's something really, really fun about hitting like the perfect fifths and the octaves of things and getting these really cool polymetric, polyrhythmic, and harmonic interactions. So I'm going to press this back again here. That returns it to normal. If I go to a 1 pulse per octave sequence, I can play this. So now I'm playing a little 1 volt per octave sequence. Isn't that nice? There's this inertia control underneath this. If I turn this up, this is going to slide around. We got ourselves a little slide guitar. That's the first time I've actually heard that with Surface. That's really fantastic. This will also work if I stop the loop. So let me turn this all the way to here. Isn't that cool? So there is a play input here, and therefore we can do like tape stops, which is really, really, really cool. With Morphogene, obviously this is going to get paired with Morphogene quite a bit. To do a tape stop, you kind of have to like mess with the tape. Like you kind of just go like this really fast. And it's not quite as nice as just having a dedicated control. I think having tape stop effects are going to be really, really cool in this. Okay, let's go to the other big knobs. Next up is skip. This is when I realized what we had was very special here. I am a gigantic sucker for taking events and doing little like, processes to them, like reversing and stuff. I'm a huge fan of Databender. I was like, God, I wish I had something else that was like Databender, but different. Stardust is that. I cannot express how happy I am that we have this like new thing that could do this to audio. And if I turn up Slice over here, and turn this down. So Slice starts to evenly divide up the audio loop into the audio buffer into a certain number of slices. According to the clock. Let me make sure the clock's on. Oh, it's not. There we go. Now the clock's... Oh, yeah, there we go. Now you can really hear that, right? Let's capture our loop again. Now that we know clock is on, it's going to wait for that clock input before it starts recording, and it's also going to sync the clock record out. So now if we turn skip up, oh my God, I love that so much. Just give me buffer shuffler effects all day. I am a happy boy. And then I can still play this, right? God, yes. Honestly, if this doesn't sell you on Stardust right now, I don't know if you're on the right channel, the right YouTube channel. It's just so magical. Reminds me of like Dintel, the guy that did the music for the Postal Service. He's really, really good at those kind of like timed granular manipulations, and now it's just in a module, which is freaking fantastic. Okay, there's ways to affect the vari-speed control. Like I can hold shift and change this to different colors. So like, for instance, gold, now it's just octaves and fifths. So if you're sending voltage into the vari-speed control, you can have control there, which is just fantastic. Okay, we have a reverse control. And again, I will sell parts of my body for a reverse on anything. Start and size. So this will change the start position and the size. And of course, you can modulate this. Why don't we do that real quick? So that's coming from OCHD. Our mix control, obviously. Let's turn this back here and get rid of our original signal. So now we're just hearing what's coming out of Stardust up here. One of the cool things I didn't realize about is that while there is an effect control on here, like it says hiss and flutter, there are actually four effects that can all run simultaneously. So let's explore those. I'm going to go ahead and turn up hiss. And that's beautiful. And then flutter. If you need your stuff to sound tapey, which sometimes we do. So that's that. If I click this little asteroid button here, now we have digital artifacting, which sounds really great on this as well. And then reverb. So all these things can be running at once. So I'll leave that on there just to show you. And we'll go to here. This is a dual pass filter, meaning high pass and low pass. And then go back to our tape. And then our digital artifacting. And you can hear that all those can run at once. So whatever is currently like in focus with this little color thing here will become what we control with our CV there. That's the basics of the front panel. Like that's how you would just get started. You don't have to clock it, but put a signal in there, hit record. Once you're done recording, it will start playing back. And then you just play. Like it's on the surface very, very simple, and that's good. Oh, we have a freeze control, which is great too. All right, so let me bring in the rest of this patch and we'll just have about a minute of a jam, and then I will go into much greater detail into different things we can do with Stardust. fun. Let's do another one. Let's explore the different record modes up here. So depending on the color of this little LED, what you've pressed it or not, we're going to have different record modes. The first one is sound on sound. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna hit play here. You can hear a little hint of a beat. We'll bring that in a bit later. So the first thing I want to do is establish my first loop. So when this comes around, I'll hit record. And then stop. So there's my first loop. That is a Qubit surface through Dismodus. Sounds good, doesn't it? So the first mode is if I hit record again at any point, it's going to add to that. The next mode is replace. It's actually kind of a cool effect right there. So you can make some sort of, this is just with one sound, but you could make some really interesting, complex, replaced sort of reels with this, depending on what was going in. And don't worry, we will get to that, but I just want to go through a simple explanation of these right now. The next one is one that I think a lot of people are going to be excited about, and that is frippertronics mode. But before we get to that one, because that's the one I'm going to jam on, let's go to the last mode. This mode is called resample, and any recording that happens in this mode becomes sort of its own individual thing. I'm going to let Editing Jeremy explain this a bit more while I just show you how it works. Hey, Editing Jeremy here. So in resample mode, it's going to resample what's going on the panel. So you can play all the settings here, Verispeed, all that kind of stuff, and it's going to sample that, which is really, really cool, as you'll see in a upcoming demo here. It can get really insane. So this is really fun. It's great to be able to resample your own loop. And also, you can save things that you make on this onto the SD card. So it's a great little playground to create wild things and then bring them into the DAW later. All right, that was a little taste of that. We'll actually use that a little bit more in a bit, but let's try frippertronics mode out. So this is just a very famous sort of recording looping technique where every time you add a new recording, the thing that was there previously starts to fade out a little bit. And it's a really, really hypnotic, sort of interesting way to interact with, guitar, with anything really. And this is an awesome mode to have in your Eurorack as well. There are a billion different things that you can do with this in terms of creating interesting loops and timbres. But right now for this example, we'll just use Surface and see what we can do. Okay, great. So now, when I hit record, I'll just be adding to this loop. So let's do that. If I just leave that recording, this will just sort of continue, and as things go, the older loops will start to fade out. I have a control down here for the model of surface. So I can add to this loop in interesting ways. So I'm just going to play a little bit. Let this loop sort of just fade out on itself. Of course, I can do this stuff still. That's badass. Hey, so I'm going to cut this jam. It's not as good as the one I did later with the frippertronics stuff, and so I will just save that one for you to experience as opposed to this one, because obviously the video is already fairly long. Hello, everybody. We're back with another patch. So I have this idea that what if I put like a simple chord into Stardust, given that it can respond to 1 volt per octave and it has all these like slicing things. What can we do with like a single, simple sort of like harmonically coherent input? And so I've tested this, and I'll show you what I came up with. So this is the 4MS Ensemble oscillator. Go ahead and turn it on. There we go. So the 4MS Ensemble oscillator has the ability to spread. In this case, I have it set to, what do you call it? Fifths. I found that fifths were simple enough for it to deal with, Stardust to deal with, to do what we're about to do. And then I can also do that and that, which can simulate inverse, respectively, a low-pass filter and sort of a wave-folding effect. So I'm going to hit record on Stardust, and I'm going to record me just playing those 3 knobs just for about 8 bars or so. I got my little drum loop right here, like that. And then we're going to play around with what we can do with it once it's in Starburst. Stardust. I'm on a Starburst now. Okay, here we go. Okay, so down here, I have a slider that affects the start time, but we're not really going to hear that until I start spamming keys on this. So what I have here is obviously the 1 volt per octave, but also it's plugged into the play input and the reset input. So every time I hit a key, it resets. We can play around with that sound that we just recorded, like where it starts, how harmonically dense it is, and we can create a rhythm for it. So let's do that. Cool. So we could turn up slice. I could turn this up to like right about here, and we'll get even more movement there. I can also turn up skip to right around where we watch the LEDs here. You'll see one turn green. That's going to start introducing octave jumps in there. So now we've added a whole new sequence based on this chord. And if that wasn't enough, I have it running through the D&I Pro here. And I can make a little cool sequence out of it that way too. So let's bring in the rest of our drums and have a little jam. Realizing I could also probably just like play this as like a solo. Yeah, that's cool. Let's turn up some effects. So it's like a really weird wavetable, right? Like, oh, I just remembered something. The inertia thing. So if I turn this up, I'll get portamento now. That's so cool. Oh, hell yeah. So because we had that timbre locked in there, I can then start playing with this and get different timbre out of it. That's wild. Nasty. So that's fun. I bet there's a lot of cool shit you can do with like tape stopping and stuff like that of a chord. That'd be really fun to play around with. All right, this has been very fun and all, very melodic, very demure. But I wanted to see how weird I could make Stardust, and the answer is really weird. There's a lot of different flavors of weird, but I think we're going to go for a little bit of Autekra kind of weird. Autekra. So what I have here is zaps from Winter Plankton, excuse me. And every time I hit a key, I access a new slot of zaps. I also randomize specs on Ruina and Melodious Versio. I think that's fun as hell. Basically, I have like this entire mult here dedicated to sending out gates to random sample and hold generators, including Randstep and the Acid Rain Maestro down here. So what I'm going to do, this is unclocked right now. I'm going to go ahead and record some stuff into it. And then we're going to start taking signals from around here, like from Randstep and probably some LFOs as well. And you're going to see how insane this gets very quickly. Without being in clocked mode, and you can switch between clock and unclock by holding shift and pressing the little reverse button there. We're in blue, so I know that means we're not clocked currently. So if I go ahead and press this, I can just start playing some notes, so to speak. Already, just with this set of sounds, it's pretty weird. Great, I think that's good. Wow. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up some stuff. You can hear it's reversed at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and take a plus and minus out of here, put this into reverse. And I'm going to take a plus and minus. Oh, that sounds so cool already. Plus and minus, and put this into volt per octave. Now every time I hit a note, you're not hearing the zaps right now. I'm going to change pitch. And I'm going to change whether or not it's reversed. And that is very fun. Let's record some more into it. Yes. Yes. Okay. What else can we do? It's fucking Looney Tunes. That's wonderful. Oh, that's fantastic. Same thing with our reverse. This should be enough to trigger the reverse. It is, yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and put some signal into slice and skip. Oh god, I love it. One of the fun things about Modular is just not knowing sometimes, like, what is happening, and this is doing that for me. Ooh! That is good shit! Alright, we got one more control that we can have fun with. Let's see how this works out. I mean, look, it's noise, yeah, right? It's a complete fucking bonkers noise, but, like, if you heard this, you'd have to be like, how the hell was this made? And I find that very, very, very interesting, you know? Okay, so what's wild is, I wonder what would happen. I wonder what would happen if we clocked this all of a sudden. Oh, hell yes! Okay, so that's the resample mode. This is where we're going to get insane, right? Holy moly! Wow! My friends, that is the good shit. And see, every single time I do one of these little vignettes and I'm like, I want to show you this thing, what ends up happening is I get an idea for the next one where I'm like, oh, this one was supposed to be like kind of, you know, music concrete, you know, sound on sound kind of thing. And then we ended up going into whatever the hell that was. So let's see if we can get it in the next one, shall we? Okay, so remember how I tried to record a chord from up here and I was like, oh, you can manipulate a chord. It's super easy and fun. And it kind of turned into like, I don't know, a little bit of a mess. Not a terrible mess, but a little bit of a mess. I found a much better example. So I got this chord over here. Let me go ahead and turn this over like this. I got this. Look how beautiful that is. So we're going to record that into here. We're not in clock mode at the moment. We will be, so just ignore this here. I'm going to let it finish this one major chord section, and then I'll hit stop, or I'll hit record again and we'll stop. There. All right. So now I can switch over to here. Now, you immediately hear that we are reversed. Oh, well, that's because I have the reverse thing on. I think this chord sounds really fantastic reversed. Gives me some Boards of Canada vibes. Now, the next step of this patch is the fact that I have, out of the Hermod Plus here, CV and gate. CV is going into 1 volt per octave, and gate is going into play. And remember that inertia control we talked about earlier, where if you have it up and you turn the varispeed knob, it takes a while to get there, like this? Or like this longer? Well, if you recall, it also works on the play. So what I can do now is basically do funky tape stop shit. So let's bring in our beat. And I will record like a sequence of this. Oh, I have control over pitch too. 1, 2, 3, 4. The longer the inertia control, the longer it takes to jump pitch and come back in. Let's bring in our bass line. Let's put a random signal into the reverse to get a little bit more just sort of vibe out of this. I'm going to put our signal here into a gate on channel 2 of our Hermod, and then we'll just record a gate sequence for this. I'll do is I'll go ahead and put chance on this. Because it's happening too often. We're getting stuck in a little part of the loop. So I'll put chance on here, and I'll put our chance down to like 20%. And that'll let the loop play out, and every once in a while we'll hit reverse. Instead of reverse, we can put this into freeze. That's actually pretty fun. Let's do that. So because there's so much that Stardust can do, I wanted to make sure that people who are interested in it, that I know got some of their questions answered. And one of the things that people asked, of course, was like, can it Boards of Canada? And that's a loaded statement. No one 100% knows what the fuck Boards of Canada did. The lore around them is kind of ridiculous. But I think what people generally mean is like, can it take a sample and make it sound nostalgic and sort of a little off? And oh boy, can it. So I've got some sounds over here. So that's a sound from an old sample CD. And what I'm going to do is press a key here, and it's going to trigger recording, because there's a record input, and play it once, because I've multed this gate out to both. So this is a way that you can easily capture a sample and make sure that it starts right at the beginning if you're not using clock. So let's go ahead and capture some sample. All right, so I just pressed the key again. If we turn this over here. Well, we've already got vibe. Oh no, we weren't supposed to have vibe yet. Okay. So there's our sample now. What a perfect little loop. If you keep an eye on this little friend right here, you'll notice that it blinks as it goes through. It'll hit blue when it hits the loop point, which is very, very useful visually. Okay, so to get this to work, the first thing we want to do is turn this down. Just arbitrarily. And then what we'll do is we'll turn up the flutter and hiss. Like that. It's already sort of almost like an analog horror, you know? Like if you watch analog horror, you've heard this in a billion of the like instructional videos. Let's go over to our reverb. Turn up our reverb. And then last but not least, reverse it. Cool. So I'm going to record this for just a smidge while I focus on this nature documentary I have over here and make it into a Boards of Canada beat. right, well, I hope that was a good beat. I listened to that for far longer than I thought I would. Let's go ahead and reset Stardust. So I'm going to hit Shift and the reset button. This resets all of Stardust settings to default, which is great if you've just done a bunch of work here and you're trying to make a YouTube video and you just need to get back to normal. Let's do another one of those. That was really, really fun. I'm going to go ahead and load up a new sample. This is from a really cool old school sample CD called Ubershell Easy Listening. It's, from what I understand, a sincere classic, and it's really good for this stuff. Okay, so again, turn it down. This one already has a little bit of hiss and stuff to it. One thing I wanted to show off is that I did add a little bit of high pass filter to this last time. We can low pass filter it as well, but I don't think we're going to. I like that upper stuff. Hiss, flutter. Turn that flutter up. Oh, that's vibey. Okay, and then reverb. Okay, this is actually pretty fun. The cool thing about this is that Stardust can actually take line level signals and process them. So we'll experiment with that in one other little interlude, I promise, because I think now that we've done this, I see some serious potential. So let's go ahead and reset, do one more. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's cool. One interesting thing to note is because we timed our loop really well, it has an idea of how to sort of like clock this loop, which will express itself with slice. We're not clocked right now, but because we captured a loop in a certain way, it's able to slice it up, which is cool. Oh man, that flutter is really cool. This is a really great time to use the Nova output. So the Nova output is the green trace over here. And what the Nova output is going to do is put out a signal based on the settings of Stardust. And you can check in the manual what they all do, or check the Qubit video on Stardust, but basically it looks like a gate right now, and I'm going to put this into reverse. Oh, wait, actually, you know what would be even better than that? Because this is just like clicking over and over again. Let's use flip, Bernoulli gate. That's wild. Okay, let's put a beat behind it. I hope that this proves to everybody that, yes, this thing can indeed balk. I don't know. It sounds great. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this for sure. All right. Next demo. So one of the questions people had on my Discord was, does this thing breakbeat slice? And I want to show you what it sounds like if you try to slice breakbeats with it. I got this beat. You're hearing it right now. I'll have Stardust clocked, which means the record button will wait for a clock when I hit record and stop. So we'll get a perfect little loop, okay? Hearing the Bitbox micro right now. Once I hit record, we'll switch on over to the breakbeat that's recorded. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. 2, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I have the mix control for Stardust right here on this first channel of the F8R. The other two are splice and skip. So let's start by bringing in the breakbeat. All right. So you hear that flanging sound? It's actually kind of cool. That is the discrepancy between Stardust's recording and what we hear from the original source. So there's just like a tiny bit of latency once you've recorded. Keep that in mind. So now we're listening completely to the loop. Let's go ahead and bring in some of these effects. I have a reset signal going in every 1 bar to keep the breakbeat restarting. And that's why it keeps on getting returned back to the beginning. This is skip. There's a lot of places between all of these from 0 to 100. So that's pretty cool, right? And again, because of that reset signal, I can reset it on beat because it's looking for the clock to do the reset. So your clock, what do you call it? Resolution is going to have a really big deal on how much you can manipulate and reset stuff in here. So yeah, kind of a mixed bag with this. There's definitely some sweet spots. I think with the speed that these breakbeats are and the little bit of latency, it can get a little messy, but it's still pretty damn cool. All right, well, that was fun. All right, that's break chopping. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so we've reached the end of the video. Thanks for watching. What we're looking at now is a performance I did using the sequential Prophet X into Stardust using the frippertronics mode. This mode layers recordings while the oldest recordings slowly fade out. It's looping, but with entropy. I wanted to take a moment to compare and contrast Stardust with some of the other offerings in the space, so let's start with Morphogene. I think Stardust is a lot more immediate and musical than Morphogene. It's very easy to get musically coherent pitch changes, and the built-in effects are really nice to use. What it lacks, at least at the time of this recording, is the reel system. Morphogene lets you plan an entire set's worth of samples and splice points as reels, and this is an incredibly useful tool for live performance. We don't have that with Stardust, at least at the time of recording, but musically Stardust is a lot nicer to use, and easier to remember how to use as well. Another comparison we could make is to Instro Luba and R-Bar. I haven't used Luba, unfortunately, so I can't compare to that, but I prefer Stardust to R-Bar for ease of use and overall sound. I'm very finicky with granular, and even though Stardust isn't technically a granular processor, it scratches that itch. Another comparison we could make would be Magneto from Strymon. I have used Magneto as a frippertronics machine, and it's really, really lovely at that. No joke, it's fantastic. However, Stardust has more features and a better sounding reverb, so honestly for me, it's Stardust there too. And look, I'm not just saying this because it's a sponsored video, by the way. Like, I really, really like Stardust. When was the last time I put out a video on this channel this long that wasn't a generative ambient jam? The answer is never. Stardust is an incredibly diverse tool, and I think it's rad. So what do you think of it based on what you've seen here? Will you be picking one up? Do you have a favorite tape looping module? Let me know in the comments. And with that, we can wrap up the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.